Good morning. This week on The Professor Helps, I want to take a step back from the conversations that I've been having and, more importantly, sitting in on, listening to, reading, affecting. I promised that I would report back as a white woman with her privilege and the things that I'm learning about racism. And I heard a fantastic analogy the other day, and I really, really want to share that with you. Because I definitely remember that when I was in college, I occasionally was late for class. And this is a great analogy for white people expecting a pat on the back or a gold star for learning about the things that we've been doing to oppress people. So we're not just 20 minutes late for class or an hour late for class, we're 400 years late for class. And think about that. In class, if you had arrived late, would you expect the professor to say, oh, okay, well, now that you're here, we're going to go ahead and start over? No. Would you get to the class and expect that the professor would sit you down and say, okay, so we're in the book and we're on this page and blah, blah, blah? Like, no, you would sneak in and, try to disturb as little amount of people as possible and do your work. So that's the message that I'm trying really hard to observe for myself. And in that fight, or in that struggle and in that frustration, which I share with you candidly, it's difficult because I love to talk. One of the reasons that I enjoy being a speaker and facilitating is that I really enjoy talking, and I love when people talk back, and when people speak up with their opinions and the thoughts that they have and where they're feeling things and things like that. So it's really, really difficult for me to just shut up and listen. And it's also vital because it's one of those things that, we really need to do more of in general. There's a reason that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. And somebody in the space who has been doing this a lot longer than I have came up with a mantra that I think anybody who is in the struggle, in the fight right now should think about. And it is up to you. You can take it or leave it. One of the things that I try to do with the Professor Helps is inspire you, motivate you, or frustrate you. And I want you to share in my frustration as I'm figuring things out. But the biggest thing is that I feel like mantras are helpful. Analogies are helpful. Metaphors are helpful. And anything that helps you to learn is helpful. And so one of the things that I've been thinking about is this mantra. So the way it goes is listen, learn, dismantle, take action, and repeat. So I'm going to break that down for you for a second. You can make it mean whatever you want to make it mean, but listen, because you need to listen to other people. You've been doing a lot of talking if you're a white person, or maybe you're not somebody who does a lot of talking, but in this space you're feeling like it's time to speak up and you don't have anything to say. Let me just assure you of that. You don't have anything to say that hasn't been said by other people, unthinking, well-meaning white people, wanting that pat on the back because they're finally getting to class to hear about racism. I'm going to celebrate the fact that you're here and say, congratulations that you're here. I mean, because that's just, in general, something we should all do. The other thing is that when you're listening to other people, the biggest thing is that you're listening and you're not waiting to talk, which a lot of people have that in spades. I'm talking about me. I'm a lot of people. Learning is something you need to do. You need to look up writers. You need to see people who are significant in the space, but mostly you need to watch and see what Black people who are well respected, who've been in the space for a really long time, are saying. Mr. Kindy is one of them, and I'm going to post his information in my blog in just a little bit. I'm actually going to be reading a book by him that drops on the 16th of June that's called Anti-Racist Baby, proving that it's never too early to start talking to your kids about racism, and it's intentional. Okay, so that's learning. The next thing that you need to do is dismantle. And this is a hard one. Because even your staunchest ally has white supremacy. They have racist thoughts. And, it is really a shock when you consider that you're out there and you're in there and you're fighting and you're saying, I would never say this thing. Well, you might think that thing. And it's important to pay attention to that, because that's dismantling your white fragility, and dismantling your white pride, and dismantling your white privilege, and looking at all of that stuff as a whole. Brene Brown says that the bravest thing we can do is own our story, and that's all of it. That's all of the oppression. That's, not to say that we're proud of it, but it's part of our story, and we have to own that. We can't keep going, well, I don't see color, because A, that's really, really insulting, and B, we have to look at a person as themselves, one individual, instead of this is how all Black people think. It's like, no, that's not accurate. And Jackie thinks this way, and Kendra thinks that way, and Lamar thinks this way, and it's literally that simple and that difficult. So that's the dismantle. The action part. So action makes people think immediately of protest, and while that is where some people go right away, that's not necessarily where you need to go. You have to decide for yourself what makes sense for you for action. So action could be supporting a Black business. It could be lifting up a Black voice, like Breonna Taylor. Somebody who has said things that, need to be amplified. You need to do your research on this, though. You don't want to just amplify somebody because they are Black. You want to find out that they are good in that space, they're meaningful in that space. And then, so the final thing, which I think is honestly gonna be the hardest, is repeat. You have to do all of that stuff over and over again. This is not one and done, folks. Like, we have to be intentional. We have to be intentional, and we have to be continual. Intentional and continual. And I read a fantastic account of something that Dave Chappelle did. He's a famous comedian and actor, and he was doing a show, and there was a really mixed audience, and he went in and they said, what's happening is, they gave him a topic and he would talk about it, and he had a joke for everything, and it was fantastic. And somebody in the crowd said police brutality, and he said, do you really want to go there? And so he made some good jokes, and then somebody in the audience said, life's tough, sorry about it. And he said, honestly, you don't know what you're talking about. And he kind of, brought everybody up to speed in the audience. He talked about, brutality and police action and all of the different things. And you should go and look up this story, because it's really amazing. I'm not doing it any justice at all. The main thing is, at the end of that show, the person who called out that comment went to see Chappelle, and she said, I'm really sorry. You educated me, and it made a lot of sense, and all this other stuff. And he said, oh, I get it, but now you know better, so do better. And I think that that's the thing to come away with, right? I hate to tell you this, because I've experienced it already, and I'm going to experience it again. You're going to screw up. You're going to say the wrong thing. You're going to offend somebody, and you just need to be ready for it, because it's going to happen. Have it not be your goal, and to be sincere about an apology if you do offend somebody, and actually say, I am learning, and I'm trying, and I'm sorry I offended you. And realize that you're going to do that, and let go of the fact that you're going to be perfect at this, because you're not. You are doing this newly, and you're going to figure it out. So in the meantime, while you're doing all this, you have help. One of the biggest things that I saw that it made my heart leap with joy, that Sesame Street is helping kids to learn about Black Lives Matter. And if you're having any trouble explaining it, or talking to your kids about it, there's a series of comics that have been doing definitely lots of commentary on what's going on in the country. But the thing with Sesame Street is that they do such a good job of explaining what it all means in a way that the Muppets can understand. And if any of you know me at all, you know that Kermit the Frog is, my favorite Muppet. And I've often said he is my power animal, because he is all about everybody getting along. And I think that a big takeaway here is that you can get help. You're not doing this by yourself. But the biggest thing is to stop looking for credit for doing something you should have done years ago. So what am I saying? Mantra, repeat this to yourself. When you're tempted to speak up in a situation where there are a lot of people who are Black and you are the only white person, think twice and listen, learn, dismantle, take action, and then repeat. And that is my lesson today for the Professor Helps. If you find this helpful, please share and go ahead and subscribe. These messages come out once a week. Wednesdays are the way that I do it. It's the middle of the week. So that's the professor signing off.